The Indiana Fever just destroyed the Aces. In 26, 27 games minimum in the regular season. Like, you don't want to be in that hovering around 500 range because that can be extremely tough.
The Indiana Fever didn't just beat the Las Vegas Aces this week. They took them apart. And if you tuned in expecting a competitive battle, you were watching a completely different game than the one that unfolded on the court. Let's start with the obvious storyline. Caitlin Clark was not on the floor for this one, and yet the Fever offense looked more fluid than it has in weeks. Aliyah Boston was pulling up from beyond the arc with total confidence, and those shots were falling. Kelsey Mitchell put together a 27-point outing that reminded everyone why she's one of the most underrated scorers in this league. This is a Fever team playing without its biggest star, and the offensive ceiling still looked sky-high. That raises an uncomfortable question for Indiana's front office and coaching staff. How do you reintegrate the league's highest-usage player without disrupting the chemistry that's making this current version of the team so efficient? Now let's talk about Las Vegas, because the body language on that bench told its own story. Chelsea Gray looked checked out. Jackie Young was missing point-blank looks she normally converts in her sleep. This wasn't just a bad shooting night. It looked like a total lack of engagement from a team that's supposed to be defending champions. You have to wonder if Las Vegas has started treating matchups against Indiana as a formality, like they can coast through the regular season and simply flip a switch when the games actually matter. But here's the thing about that mentality. It doesn't matter how disinterested your opponent looks. Your job is still to walk out with a win. And Indiana did exactly that, extending their streak to 3 straight victories over Vegas. Historically, that kind of run represents a real shift in the power dynamic between these two franchises. If you're locked into every twist of this WNBA season the way I am, make sure you're subscribed to WNBA updates. I break down every controversy, every statement game, and every storyline shaping this league, so you don't miss a thing. Now let's be fair to context here, because A'ja Wilson was sidelined for this game, and you cannot talk about a Las Vegas loss without acknowledging that the best player in the world was not on the floor. Take the engine out of a championship-level machine and the whole system stalls. That's real, and it matters. But even accounting for Wilson's absence, the underlying numbers back up just how dominant Indiana's performance was. The expected points margin, somewhere in the neighborhood of 93 to 74, tells you this wasn't a fluke or a lucky bounce. The Fever controlled that game from start to finish. And this is where the real tension in Indiana's season lives. This current brand of basketball, patient, structured, share-the-ball basketball, is working. But can that identity coexist with Caitlin Clark's game, which thrives on aggressive, high-risk, high-reward playmaking? That's the paradox facing the coaching staff. You want Clark's vision and her ability to create instant offense. But you also risk losing the disciplined, methodical style that's currently working so well without her. If Indiana keeps winning games like this, that's a real coaching dilemma heading into the stretch run. 2 very different systems that both look effective, and a decision looming about which one takes priority when it matters most. As for Las Vegas, this loss extends an uncomfortable trend. The Aces now have a losing record against Indiana over the last 2 seasons. At what point does that stop being a coincidence and start being a legitimate blind spot? If Vegas is banking on flipping a switch come playoff time, they may be underestimating just how much the gap between these 2 teams has actually closed. Now let's zoom out to the standings, because Indiana's playoff position is looking increasingly secure. They currently hold roughly a 3-game cushion over the teams battling at the bottom of the bracket. The target for the Fever should be somewhere around 26 to 27 wins, enough to avoid getting stuck in that dangerous middle-of-the-pack territory. Because once you're floating around a .500 record, you're at the mercy of tiebreakers and unfavorable matchups. Indiana has bought itself some breathing room. The question now is whether they can stay focused and avoid complacency down the stretch. So here's where this leaves us. Indiana has proven it can function as a cohesive, competitive unit, even without its franchise star on the floor. The real question is whether this version of the team is the permanent identity or just a placeholder until Clark returns to full form. If you were running this franchise, what would you do? Do you commit to the team-first, egalitarian style that just dismantled a championship roster? Or do you hand the keys back to your superstar and bet that her ceiling is high enough to win it all? Drop your take in the comments. I want to know where you stand on Indiana's identity heading into the playoffs. And if this breakdown helped make sense of what's really going on with this Fever team, hit subscribe on WNBA updates. New videos drop covering every angle of this league, the controversies, the stats, the storylines nobody else is breaking down. See you in the next one.